Where'd you go, Square?
Oh,
He's getting us a gift from Zoom.
yeah. Hooray for Zoom. Too many screens, not enough everything else. All right, here we go. Perfect. We
Laptop
made it.
open? Like, what's
All
going
right. So hey everybody, welcome to 2023. I hope it's not as erratic as I'm making it look. Welcome back to the MVP Office Hours. I'm Squire Kirshner, and I'm joined as always by some of your best friends. You just don't know it yet, Dale and Joy. Say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
We're super excited to have you back in the new year and be joined by a couple friendly faces that we haven't seen in quite a while. Jackie, it's nice to see you.
Yeah.
As always, we are meeting on the first and third Friday of every month. We're focused on trying to help everybody get what they can out of the platform. We can be reached through sometimes Twitter, sometimes LinkedIn. There's a lot of chaos there. So the best way to reach us, or anyone for that matter aligned with this call, is to use the success community to ask your questions and hopefully get some good feedback there. We do consolidate all of that and bring it to these calls, but start there. And the email is always available, mvpofficehoursus@gmail.com. The next call obviously would be the 20th then. Registration's at the bit.ly MVP Office Hours link. As always, welcome all current and future MVPs. You're all MVPs in our hearts, and so thanks for coming today. Please participate, share your experience, raise your hand if you've got questions. Feel free to post them in the chat. We'll get to everybody as soon as we can after we get through the stuff that's on success and in email, and try to get to everybody as quickly as possible. But this isn't about the three of us talking, or a lot of times it's just me talking. We're all here to help each other, so please share what you know, and we'll get smarter little by little, hopefully. The two big caveats, of course, though, are we are recording. You saw that pop up. So if it's anything proprietary or private, or just shouldn't be put on the internet forever and ever and ever, please don't share that information. But you can share anything you feel is valuable to help define your question and help us find your answers. And as always, we want to be informal and have fun, but we also need to be professional, because again, this is on the internet forever and ever and ever, and we would hate for anyone to feel like they might have been thrown under the bus because of our friendly banter about something. So with that, if I could change screens, the event list is filling up. Like we talked last time, Cactus Forest in Japan Dreamin' are this month. There's a little break there, and then March and April, we've got Snow Forest Kiwi, Albania Dreamin' at Texas in May, with Trailblazers in March. We'll keep an eye on that event list, but you should too. It's available on the Trailhead website underneath events. Try to participate as often as you can, because we all get smarter by working together. And with that, unless I miss anything, I am going really fast, I'm sorry. There were two comments in success that we wanted to touch on, and then I saw Marty threw a question in already, so we'll get to everybody as quick as possible. First, if you're okay with it, Michael, I'm going to kind of start with you. You posted something kind of cool, I thought, about dynamic gauge charts in success. Rather than try to reiterate what you did a really nice job of writing in your blog and posting, do you want to take 5 minutes and kind of go through it?
Sure. For those of you who didn't see the blog post, here it is in the chat. But let me share my screen and show you what it all means. All right. So like I said in my blog post, right, I haven't used most of the features that have dynamic in their name yet, but when I saw dynamic gauge charts announced, I don't know, like a year and a half ago, I thought that looks really cool. And then I finally went to use it a couple of months ago with a client and realized it has cool potential, but it needs a little bit of help. So the idea behind dynamic gauge charts, dynamic gauge components on dashboards is, here's the old way. You make your gauge and you have to manually set the segments and the top of the segment, what's green, etc. The idea of dynamic gauge charts is that these could set themselves, which would be so awesome. It's based on a record. So then the question becomes, what record? It's one thing if you have a campaign that has a revenue target field, and then you can make a chart based on that revenue target field. That's the kind of thing you're likely to already have in your database. But if you want something that's what percentage of records, whatever object, meet your goal, you're not going to have a single record that does that, and you're not going to be able to make a roll up or anything that automatically counts those things for you. So I realized we needed some sort of record that would hold your targets. So I released a unmanaged package. Please, read my blog post, look at the GitHub repo, and give me feedback. But basically, here's what it does. Made an object called dashboard targets. They have a name, which is meant to tell you what they're counting, and they have a target number. And then if you want to get cool, some of them can auto update themselves. Now, for the purposes of this demo and for the purposes of the package and the blog post, I did dashboard targets that count contacts because I could throw them into a scratch org. I don't have to, have a new object or anything like that. And I'm counting things like how many people are managers based on having chief or manager in their title. Obviously, title field, right? Obviously not the kind of thing you'd probably use in real life. You'd probably base it on some much more structured field than title, but this was just an easy way to have a demo with something that everyone has in their org. So here's a dashboard target record. It's pretty simple. You have the name, like I said, that should tell you what it does. You can use a description because that's always helpful. You have the number. If you don't make it auto-updated, you just put in your target. So that would be used for something like, we want to raise $1 million this year. You put in a target fundraising goal for 2023, $1 million. And then when the board comes back and says, we'd like you to raise $1.25 million, you just update your target manually because that was something that happened, the database doesn't know about. But that's not the cool thing. The cool thing is, let's do it based on a SQL query so that it can auto update itself. So if you put in the where clause here, the full query updates itself. And when a flow runs, which I'll show you in a sec, it updates the target number for you. So if we look at these dashboard targets, it says the count of all contacts in the database is currently 8, but no, there are 10 because I haven't run the flow recently. So I'm going to go into this target and I'm going to click the update button. And now the flow is running in the background. And while I talk, it's going to run. So there's 3 simple flows to do this, one of which gets auto-installed when you install the package. The others you have to do a little post-install steps. But basically, you have a flow for each object for which you have dashboard targets. And then you have a flow that runs all of those flows asynchronously. Basically, it has a pause element, and then it hits those subflows so that they run in the background and there's no SQL limits and things like that getting in your way. And basically, all I've done for the subflows is I used an unofficial SF component that allows you to run a SQL query. I grab all the dashboard targets for a particular object. I run their SQL queries, assign them, blah, 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 and then update. And in the meantime, while this ran, let's go back to the dashboard targets. Look, this is 10 now, 10 contacts in the database. And so now if I refresh this dashboard, look, this one, the magic way, has updated to a maximum of 10, but the old way is still stuck at 8, and you would have to manually update it. So the possibilities here are endless. All you got to do is make dashboard targets for those objects that you want to do things with. And last thing I'll show you is how the component is set up. Instead of the standard mode where you put in the different breakpoints, you choose dynamic, you choose the object that's got your target, the record in particular that you want to be the target for this gauge, and which field has the number you want. And that's how it creates the breakpoints. These are now percentages of that target number. And I really like clicking the show percentage so you get the percent. And that is all it takes.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. Feedback that's freaking amazing. As you're
I have a quick question, Michael. So I've seen people do the table of dashboard targets and do like the manual thing you were talking about without the update. I mean, that seems like a pretty good best practice if you're going to start leveraging them, is just lean into that. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, totally. I think the manually updated ones is great, but I'll give the example that's in my blog post. You know, a lot of my clients are nonprofits, right? A lot of them are education organizations. They want, 3/4 of students should have a GPA above 3.5.
Yep.
But they also have students who come and go because they get kicked out of the program for not attending, or they join mid-year. So if you have a manual number of students in the program target, you got to remember to update that every time a kid comes or goes.
Right.
And if you want to have, elementary school, middle school, high school, et cetera.
So the two follow-up questions are, so one is, can you get to a custom setting or a metadata record from that pick list? It has to be an actual record, I think, right? Okay.
It has to be a record.
The other thing that I've seen with a similar model is simply just having a flow go update that manual record, like not have your package is cool because it builds it all for you. Would you say one or the other is better, and why? Okay,
great question. So the reason I ended up coming up with this package is I realized I wanted to make these update. At first I thought, I'll build some sort of DLRS, roll up. And then I thought, nope, there's no lookup relationship to go across. I'd have to make a flow for each dashboard target record.
Right.
Or maybe I could group some of them, et cetera, but I was going to have to build one each time. And then I thought, well, that's just ridiculous. Let me build one flow that can hit all the records. And how can I define what it's going to do in that flow? Well, that's what Sockwell is for. And so that's why I built my package. Absolutely, you could do it yourself building flows. And if you only have one or two, sure, go for it. I'm trying to make it easier for admins.
I love that you scaled it before you even got to the giant pile of crap. You're just like, nope, we're going to make this scalable now.
Well, because my thought as you were walking through a lot of that, I mean, you're in dashboards, you're in reports. My thought was, God, I wish we could do this with reporting snapshots, but to at least get you your denominator of, what am I measuring against? But Salesforce isn't there yet, but you've harnessed this into the admin space. That is huge.
Thank you.
That is seriously amazing.
Gold star, Michael. Gold star.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I hope people use it and give me feedback. Anything you find, I want to learn from the rest of the community as well.
I think one thing that would be really cool if Flow opened it up, and I mean, I'm shooting from the hip here. Like I remember it's been 6 years because when I was an admin, I remember using Conga, Conga Composer. And the day I got in and I realized, I could dynamically pass in an object name or a field name as the variable in a Sockwell statement through Conga, whatever. I don't know that Flow quite supports that yet because that would be tapping into the metadata API. But if a Flow were to support that, so that if your org had hundreds of objects, you could just really supercharge it, that would be awesome in the future. But you got this to a scalable place with Flow, not code, not manual updates. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Is there, I think there's some limitations, but would you envision this extending into a SOSL type query where you could look for, I don't know, you cross all objects and do counts for every time I see Joy listed as an owner or something like that?
Is there a way to use Saucil in Flow? Like,
I
is
don't
there an
think
unofficial
so.
SF? I don't know if there is.
No.
I'm not entirely sure. That's why I thought I'd ask. So,
I mean, so it is a limitation of the unofficial SF component that you can't, you have to select the object for which you're about to run Suckwell in
Sure.
the, like, as part of the flow step. So you can't even mix there to run like a bunch of different Suckwell. You have to do one for each object. So I suspect Saucil not on the table yet.
yeah, I'd assume that's a little bit too like ambiguous anyway. Like you're not really sure what you're getting back sometimes if you do a Saucil query. So I just was wondering in advance. So, all right. Thank you, sir.
So we're gonna share out your blog post in the deck, and then you have like your repository, your Git and all of that in the blog post.
Yes, the blog post has a link to the GitHub repo, and on the wiki, and actually it links you to the wiki part of the repo. Thank you, Joy. In the wiki, there's install instructions, post install, recommendations. It's all there. You shouldn't have to read code or any of the. GitHub is just a way to, you know, sort of freely have a place to post the versions and all that. But you don't have to dig into GitHub and code and such.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you for putting all that out, and thank you for showing us. That is amazing.
I can't wait till Sarah like tears us apart. Sarah, when you're done with your snack, you can chime in, but the I'm so excited. That's fun stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man. I just
Um,
wanted to like add record types to it for automated and manual. That was like the one thing I wanted to do, Michael. It's totally unnecessary, but it was the one
Right,
thing.
exactly. I was like, I'm going to have one page layout and no record types, but they're effectively two record types. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, hey, I like it. I like it. And I like the simplicity of it. What
Yeah.
else we got going on? Christy, is Christy up next?
I do
well,
not.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dale.
No, I don't see Christy, but it's a good follow-up, I think, from a previous call.
Yeah, and if you didn't see it in the success, Christy found a short, it's like a 10-minute video on YouTube that really gets into kind of the details of enhanced domains. If you're still feeling a little bit lost or struggling, or you want more information, or you want to be able to support the rest of your teams, it's a nice little inclusion. And so the link is now in the chat as well as in the slide deck and in success. So if you're still got questions, head that way. And we just wanted to say thanks to Christy for putting that out there.
Yeah.
Yay.
All
So
right.
I think after that, then it was
Marty, right?
Marty next.
Marty.
Marty and then Brandon, both with reports questions. So Marty, you are up.
Reports are just
Okay.
getting some love today. I like it. I like it.
This is Marty.
First of the year. Let's get some reports done.
Yeah, so I hope this is a brain freeze on my part, but I can share my screen because I have created in the demo org a sample of what I am here to ask about. What
Is
I
it
think
dynamic
this-
gauges?
No. No, wouldn't that be nice? All solved. We could go to have lunch now. Okay. Simple question. This is just a sample, and I'm just using this as an example. So opportunities closed one, total amount. The keyword here is this month, this year. Okay. And
Okay.
so I'm going to my this year example. Okay. Then my second, so that was fine. Got that. But when I want my this month last year in my report filter, I can't do that.
Nope.
Yeah, I know that's true. And I know I did something previously where when I wanted the different months compared, I used like the Prev group thing. But I just want one number. I want this 144,000 number. Maybe I wanted one of the donuts. Maybe I just want a number, but I want to be able to say this month last year.
Have you tried 12 months ago?
Oh, that would always be true, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Oh, see, I
Oh,
knew.
Well,
So
hold
I
on,
just,
hold on.
yeah,
Let's be careful with those relative date references because they get squirrely on their boundaries. Like,
Yep.
Like
You say-
around,
oh, because that would well, if it was the end of the month, it would be right.
yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, so
Probably
It doesn't
right
12
with a
months
little bit of
ago,
verification.
yeah, so if
I'm
I
pretty sure 12 months
say,
ago will be whatever the calendar, whatever 1 year ago falls in, but whatever calendar month, it'll fall to the first of the month and the last is what 12 months ago should do.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's got that weird thing where it actually
No,
only includes
it's not.
completed
I want
months,
the
right? Didn't we
relative
have that
data.
last time?
Okay. So I want a close date of
Do-
relative date. And I
if you do
want
with
12.
close month,
Oh. That's why I come here, because you people are so smart. It's like equals, so close month equals relative date of 12 months ago. That would be right. Ha! Thank you.
sometimes
Okay.
So-
it's just the data point. It's all right. I like it. I like it. I hope that works.
I'll play around in my real life org. This is a client that has a lot of data for last year, and see if I'm getting everything we expect. But thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
and
I would definitely look at the day of
Yeah,
close date just to make absolutely sure it didn't chop off days 1 through 5 since today is the 6th,
Yeah.
or even chop off the 6th. Just
so in
to-
my I must add, even though we're being recorded, in my chat session last night with Salesforce support, the suggestion was to come on the first of the month every month and type in like January 1st through January 31st of 2022, etc. And I knew that was not a good answer.
I would expect
Ooh.
nothing less from them.
Yeah, so
this is
so,
a
so
scalability thing that like I feel like I tackled at one of my previous jobs, and I was like, I am not doing this every January. I'm not
yeah,
doing,
exactly.
I'm not doing it. This is insane.
It's a right. You shouldn't
So-
have to.
Yeah.
And there's, yeah, I mean, things should be consistent. So,
It's hard to like time warp to see if it works.
right. I just must add, you guys also solved my question last time or whenever we met, that I had the question where I was having the trouble with the signature image.
Yep.
I think it was Squire that, and you were correct. I went back. It was not really the quote marks. I went back to an org that had it correct and did a copy and paste and
Is
solved.
that not the worst feeling where you're like, I
Yes.
know I did it right? and it's the-
Exactly.
And
It
it's
is.
the ASCII code that's like, no, you didn't do it quite right.
It's and it should be highlighted in the documentation where
Yeah,
it says do this and says, oh, blah blah. But in the back of your head that no, there's something wrong here. All right. Thank you again, everybody.
of course.
So question about that ago as a relative
Mhm.
measurement, because I didn't know this was a thing. So y'all just taught me something. Does it only work with months or does it work with any measurement of time?
so
I just put in
Yes.
chat the link, like list them all.
You rock.
yeah,
You knew that
so
question was coming.
it lists them, but you have to know how you're using them. Like as soon as you declare days, it's going to measure the day. As soon as you measure months, it's going to measure the month. If you say weeks, I don't know if it's Sunday through Saturday or Monday through Sunday, but like it's going to hone in on that specific unit of measure. And last does not include current. Next does not include current.
Dale, will it
Yeah.
measure how many sleeps until Christmas?
I'm sure it will if you wanted it to, but yeah, you have to like, you really got to know how to use it. So
Right. I like check that link out because it's going to have everything defined so that you understand like the way the computer's thinking, right? Like,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
mhm.
I'm a little giddy. We got to add a new bullet to the Hall of Fame. The relative filters should be like at the top of every admin's list, and it's easy to forget all those other ones like fiscals and quarterly breakdowns and all the cool stuff you can do with relatives. It's important.
I also want to throw one other thing just to consider. I may be having a Mandela effect moment. See what I did there? But seeing in the chat starts at 12:00 a.m. on the first day of the month that started end month, blah, blah, blah. Make sure I think that's UTC.
Yeah, figure out your time zone.
Yeah. So like for me in the central time zone, it's actually 7 p.m. of the last day of the previous month.
It may be related to your org time zone. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that too. Like it's not, oh, hey, I'm in Kansas, so it's midnight central time. It's a combination of all the things, including UTC.
Yes. In my past lives, I've had salespeople tell me, no, I closed it. I'm like, you didn't. Sorry. You were up too late. You should have gone to bed at like 6 p.m. like the rest of us. Anyway. Who's
That's
next?
where sleeps gets really complicated as a unit of time.
How old is the individual trying to sleep? Are they an actual mature adult who goes to bed every night, or are they a college student who pulls like 3 or 4 days in a row on a whole bunch of Monster and Red Bull?
You know,
I think
I'm a mature
custom
adult. I
sleep
just-
times is a setting, like custom fiscal years.
Mm.
If I sleep at 2 o'clock and I wake up at 4 and I sleep again at 8, is that 2 sleeps? Is that 1 sleep? How
Two.
many
Business
sleeps?
hours, business
Oh,
hours.
naps. Okay, yeah, naps. Our nap sleeps.
All right. Brandon, you had questions. You had a question about the report too, right?
Oh, yeah. So our chief revenue officer wants to see in a single report the closed one against quota plus open pipe, and be able to just filter and change the date range. And I can do both, right? But the forecast tab, and we use quotas and stuff like that. The forecast tab is a great view of it, but you only get the month by month view, as you probably know. And for the life of me, I haven't been able to figure out a join report, because you have forecast plus forecast objects or whatever that weird hierarchy is in order to run a report. And a previous admin had set up opportunities that were goals to try to do like this stuff, and it's just kind of a mess. And I feel like it shouldn't be this hard, but Squire's shaking his head, so he obviously understands.
As
Does
soon as you
anybody
said
have any
CFO, I wanted to
tips?
run, because it seems like that's the start of every admin's bane is, how hard could it be to combine 3 completely unrelated data sets into one Salesforce report?
Well, and here's the other thing too, that I thought about just putting at the user level their quota and then pulling that in. But then of course you can't access users from the opportunity object, all of the fields. And so I'm like, all right, do I create a separate thing called goals? I don't know. So, and it actually does tie into that relative table that was being shown earlier. I was like, oh, I wonder if I can use that to do a dashboard. But anyways, thoughts, comments?
I was just going to say that. Can you represent it on a dashboard with different components versus in a report? And filter it by different filters that would give them the opportunity to show the information they want to see.
Yeah, I mean, he's got an Excel spreadsheet. And so he'd like exactly right.
It's 2023, isn't it?
Well, because that's what he this is recorded, but he's more from the old school. So I'm like, all right, if I can just mimic this, and it's not hard, right? It's not hard from a concept. So anyways.
So when you say change dates, I'm going to interrupt you, Dale. Are you talking about like just change what month, or change what quarter, or change what week? Like what's the...
Yeah, like last quarter, this quarter, this year, last year.
Making a giant assumption that the quota would be divided by 30 days multiplied by 7 to get the week?
We have a monthly quota, so it wouldn't be, it'd be just like last month, this month, next month, and then 3x for the quarter if we're doing that. So
And then you can't, I mean, your daily quota would be like really an interesting number. I don't want to.
We don't do daily, so.
Yay. So,
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying like the forecast tab is perfect. Other than you can't see everybody joined in one thing, you know. Here, let me, I'm gonna, go ahead.
Have you considered a reporting snapshot?
Well, no, because he wants it dynamic.
Right, which,
Well, oh, sorry, we already have snapshots of all of the opportunities done on a weekly basis. The problem is closed one and open pipe at the same time would be two separate, I believe.
well,
Maybe,
but
maybe I'm missing that.
well, so like, with reporting snapshots, the only like you could manipulate the process to like pump everything into a single custom object, and then that's like that it takes the reporting and dashboarding capabilities to the next level because you've done that aggregation, and then you show the aggregates to then be able to potentially filter on and everything. I guess the question I have is, does anything ever need to be retroactively updated? Because that would not apply to snapshots.
Well, yeah, because a snapshot's going to have the state that it was in
At the time of the snapshot, yes.
Yeah.
So are you trying to compare, like at the end of the month, how much open pipe did we have left versus
Not even at the end of the month, like literally like today, how much has been closed by our reps? How much open pipe do they have? And what's their gap or their coverage? So they have 4X pipe, they have 2X pipe.
So they want to be able to run this anytime.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Can you remind me what is your what's the version of Salesforce you're running?
Enterprise.
Are you on Enterprise?
Yeah. So we don't have pipeline inspector or that other stuff.
Yeah. If you had a bigger version, which I just CRM analytics for sales comes with the larger version, which also would help you here.
Yeah, right. Are you using, do you have, I'm trying to keep you from having to go to like an extended analytics tool like that? Like, are you using Rollup Helper, like a paid version of that?
I do have
potentially
Rollup
be
Helper,
leveraged?
but just the free version.
Just okay. Because like I would wonder if you had the paid version that got you the anytime and all of that, could you compose like an application or something that gives the user the ability to click a button, go aggregate all the data, and then present it in kind of a way that they're looking for? It would let you do that in real time. I don't know if it would let any user do it, like what the licensing limitations or whatever are, but it would still let you do it in real time.
Well, and I do, I have written roll-ups using Flow for like counting the number of active contacts. And so I would, like as people were chatting here, I was kind of thinking like, I wonder if I could roll up for a person or an org dollar amount space. I don't know how long I'd run or whatever, but yeah.
I'd be worried with Flow that you'd hit limits, like SOQL limits, whereas Rollup Helper would be leveraging code.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're saying the same thing there, just different tools.
Yeah, and to answer Squire's point, the challenge is that forecasts and forecast objects are like kind of separate from ops, but they're sort of tied to ops, but you can't write like a custom report type to like try to pull that stuff in. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating because like this forecast tab gives me everything I need, just not how I want to see it.
So have you reversed the conversation? Like, I mean, this is common, whether you're an admin or a consultant or whatever, the person you're trying to serve comes with, I need it like this, and this. Okay, why? And if you can't give me a solid enough why, can we take a step back and say, here's what comes sustainably out of the box, sustainably and scalable, that's pretty freaking close. how about this? Like, do you have any leeway or leverage on that? Because if the forecast tab's getting you a ton of what you need, like that's out of the box. So how much money, Mr. Executive, are you willing to spend on your Brandon's time to maintain this? Because you're not going to just set it and forget it. You're going to be maintaining it over time, and that costs the company money. So
Yeah, I'm not, it's funny. I mean, he came from a previous company. He's like, oh, my team there had this thing done. And like, you know, they don't know the system like you do. I'm like, yeah, they probably had a lot more licenses, to Stuart's point, or capabilities as well, because they had everything. So,
right.
They might have
Yep.
did it all manually and not told them to.
Well, and that's
Right.
the other thing that I'm thinking it could be. So, I do think, I mean, I think I've got some options. I was thinking and asking the group here, like if somebody had like, oh yeah, it's just this, you know, thing, download this app and it'll do it for you. So
Yeah,
it's
CRM dynamics, unfortunately.
Well, someone brought up Conga. Could you just use Conga and dump it into Excel?
Oh yeah, that would absolutely be my
that
choice.
probably
but-
work. It's just like, you know,
well, I mean, we do, you know, we're a Google company, right? A Gmail, GDocs, all that other stuff. So I did toy with that idea of basically just dumping the data out there and then giving them a magic widget dashboard based, you know.
I mean, I guess like help me understand though, like how often is all of this being pieced together to be consumed, and by who? Like I think we all love that the goal is for you to just be able to click into Salesforce and do it, but I mean, it's busting at the seams with everything that you're trying to do. So how often is it being done that you're going to say, look, sorry, we need to go to an additional tool?
Every day that they're behind schedule and hitting their quota.
Yeah.
Which that sounds like a process problem, not Salesforce's problem. So like
Yeah.
this is not a linear decision of go run it in Salesforce. At least it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I'm not going to win that argument, but that's okay.
No, you can, but you can ask the questions and understand and better understand why. Play the BA, play the business architect, play the solution architect, and keep peeling the layers back, because there's a genesis point in there somewhere that you're going to be pivoting from that will then get you to the solution.
Yeah, I mean, I think my short-term goal is going to be to create a dashboard that's basically open pipe and then a quota attainment side by side, and then the filter at the top to drive it down. But I'm gonna put my thinking cap on and figure out a solution, and I'll bring it back to the team when I do.
Yeah.
Or I'll tell you how it is at my new company. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Brandon,
don't
don't lose
wanna
track.
open
There's a
up
couple good
iMovie and have
ideas
to
in the
edit.
chat while you were describing what was going on. So Michael and Sarah and a couple of people posted some ideas. So keep those on your radar as well.
Yeah, well, it's exactly, you know, the forecast object stuff. Yeah, I'm definitely looking at what they got there. The formula to pull the quota from the owner to the op is the challenge is you have to store it somewhere. You can't store it on the user object. So that's why I created a separate object, and I was going to roll up everything. And then he's like, I want to just dynamically do it. I was like, ah, damn it.
Also, go ahead.
I was just saying, I missed why you can't store it on the user, just because it's hard to update, or?
Yeah, the forecast, when you do a custom report type from the forecast, it's those custom fields aren't available from the user object, at least from what I've been seeing.
Well, that's why I was saying, take the information from the user and put it onto the opportunity so you can get to it in the custom report type from the opportunity.
Yeah, I'll say that the challenge in the past has been that they created basically an opportunity that was a goal, and then you would write these reports that would say, oh, pull in the goal plus this. And so they had a goal, a goal opportunity for each sales rep for each month, that then they could say, oh, compare goal with this. And it's so clunky, you know?
So it's not just like one quota number that you can stick in a field somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Never
mean,
mind then.
you know, in fact, though, now that you say that, I did think about doing that, where I basically write a formula field that's like, if this rep, that rep, whatever, The problem is that we both have, you know, like total, like the average recurring revenue as well as year one plus, you know, it's like, but I like that idea. I'll definitely give that a shot because it can't be worse than what it is.
I also think that Dale's suggestion is digging in and figuring out exactly the underlying reason why they want this information the way they want it.
Oh, I know
Because
exactly.
that might
Yeah,
highlight a different way to get to the information.
yeah, I know the exact reason and all that other stuff. So I'm not, it's how most sales leaders look at the data, and I totally get it. And from a rev perspective, it's something we should do. So and that's why the forecast tab's set up how it is, right? I mean, it's exactly what you look at on the forecast tab. So
And then I'll give you some more work to do.
Good.
Unless it's already been announced, because I just dropped in on the call halfway through, which I tend to do.
I see.
Look through all of the spring 23 release notes, because there's been a lot of improvements to reporting and dashboards, and also, and Dale mentioned, there's a lot of limits on what you can do with queries and things like that. They've improved that in spring 23, and flows, just what you can do inside of screen flows and what you can show and add tables and stuff like that. So once you've done the stuff of figuring out exactly what they're looking for, maybe you can present it using the spring 23 advancements and flows.
Well, and the SOCL query thing within a flow today was something I guess I didn't even know about either, which is really cool. And I agree. It's funny. We just had our renewal and I wanted to upgrade to Unlimited Edition because of Pipeline Inspector and some of those other tools, and we didn't. And so, yeah, so I was like, that might have been it, but oh well. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna play dumb because I haven't read the release notes yet. The SOCL piece is very, very interesting. Like Michael showed in his demo, plugging in a text. Michael, you were using a text string as your where clause, right?
Yes, using an unofficial SF component that I'm posting in the chat right now.
Is there in the realm of possibility to pass in variables into that text string in the SOCL, in the flow, that then give you, like going back to Brandon, you were already talking about using flow that lets you throw those levers of, oh, I need it by this rep and by this date and.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
component
yes.
can take variables into the SOCL string.
Yeah, because you could do that. You could do that variable or even create that formula before you get to this. And then,
But right, but what I'm saying is, like, if ScreenFlow was your interaction point for this, could you consume any levers that then manipulates the SOCL string in the flow?
And possibly pass parameters in a URL to a report, right? Because you can pass the filter variables up at the top. Anyways,
Potentially, yeah, but I mean,
a lot of good ideas here. So,
I mean, that feels like it would be an adventure that even if you failed it, you learned a lot about how SOCL is going to work with flow now that we have it. Like you'd be breaking some ground there.
All right, healthcare for all. Let's tackle this one.
Right, exactly. SOCL for all flow.
I'll say thank you to the group. I think I've got enough to work on it, and it looks like somebody else has other questions. So I don't want. I've taken up enough time.
Yeah, I don't think we missed anyone before Lizelle, but if not, you're up.
Oh, hello.
Hi there.
Hi. So I had a flow question. I know it should be simple, but for the life of me, I'm going crazy. So can I share my screen?
Of course.
And I don't see. Oh, perfect. Okay.
You're right, Michael. It's never simple. Let's see what you got.
Okay, so I have this. I guess the rationale behind this is, since I can't, I need a way to figure out how many cases are assigned to a patient, because I wanted to do a report on accounts, cases, and orders, and figured out I couldn't. So I said, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and create a text field here saying number of cases. So I can report on the number of cases associated with this person account. So I said, okay, so I have this. When I ran it, I ended up getting nothing. I guess the values I'm getting don't seem to make sense. So I'm thinking I'm getting a 0 when I know there are some cases associated with this account, if that makes sense. So I'm here. I figured my get record would be, my patient account or my account record, and then doing this, because I did it for another object and I followed the same thought process, but this time I'm getting a 0. So I'm sad and confused.
Can we see your flow screen?
Yeah.
Just a question, was there a reason you wouldn't just do a lookup field on the case, then do a roll-up summary? Rather than writing a whole flow for this?
I would absolutely do this with Dolores.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you can
Dolores
do
for the
roll-up
win.
summaries between case and person account, can you?
With
That
the
was beautiful. I don't know what,
DLRS, you can.
how do I?
With DLRS, yes. I'm talking out of the box roll-up summary fields. You can't.
Well, doesn't it have to be a master detail or whatever it is?
Yep.
Right. Account opportunity.
fake
the only
one.
exception.
You can't make person accounts. We use business accounts, so you can't make person account a master of case because we do it with business accounts. No, okay.
Oh, no, I can't do, oh, is there another way of doing that?
Can you show your flow that you have?
Yeah, Lizelle, if you go into flow, can you do a manual test of this? A manual debug and just see what steps does it go through in the manual debug? Failed to find records. Okay, so you've got a failure on the first step.
Okay, so that is my issue. It's, oh God. So I guess my get record is incorrect because before I didn't have a condition, and then it ended up giving me the sum of all cases across all accounts. So I said, okay, oh, this makes sense. So it's this is incorrect. Oops.
And I think you can also simplify your flow. You don't have to loop through counting them. If you've got a collection of cases that are the right cases, you can make an assignment for the count of the get records step.
And that was a release. That was like what, 2 or 3 releases ago they gave us that built
Just
in?
like two versions ago, then you don't have to do the loop anymore. Michael's right.
However,
Michael's actually
you can't do a count on a collection filter. Fun little thing. If you do a collection filter of a collection, you can't actually do a count of it anymore.
Well, you can assign the result of the collection filter to a collection and then count that. But you have to assign the result to a collection, which trips me up every time.
Yeah, the filter doesn't actually build a new collection unless you tell it to. Yeah.
So I guess I would need to do a collection on this. Is that what I'm?
Well, hopefully you already are, right? You're collecting all of the cases in order to loop through them. So that exists, right?
Yes.
So then what you do an assignment node. Who's done one recently? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Assignment node, and then you just say it's like size of that collection variable, right? Isn't it?
Count of.
Count
I
of?
did one today.
Count.
Just this very morning.
So go ahead and walk her through that.
Okay, so under operator, so get rid of your loop, first of all.
Okay.
Or just move it out of the way or delete it, doesn't matter. And now in that assignment, you can go through and edit it. So what you're going to assign to that variable now where it says operator, if you click there, it should have one that says equals count.
Oh.
And then you can choose the collection from your get records. So cases from get related cases.
Thank you. Oh,
And
okay.
that'll assign that to there. We still have to make sure that you're getting your cases correctly. So we have to figure out which field you need to find your cases using, but that'll at least get you the count of how many records there are when you find them.
Oh, awesome. So I guess I can just go. Oh, okay. I just put crayons. All right, let's go. Hopefully that'll work. Then,
Is this a scheduled flow?
yes.
So how does it know which accounts to roll up which cases to? Like, how do you know? Right now, it's just going to count every case in the world if it's scheduling, right? Because you don't have a point of reference, or no?
That yeah, you're right. It's just limited on record type.
So you're just counting up every case, no matter what, all that type, and just saying that's the total to put on every person account?
Yes. Oh, so well, I hit limits that way because I did this in production and then I got limits and I got errors. So I guess that's
Maybe. I guess I'm just trying to understand. So what you're really trying to do is say how many cases are tied to this specific person account, right?
Yes, that's correct.
But with the schedule, unless you're telling it to first get all of the firms, then loop through every firm, sorry, not firm, we call them firms, loop through every person account and then get the count of the cases to assign it, right? Did I jump a step? Everybody correct me if I'm wrong, but right, like if this is just saying, get all the cases, there's 307 of them, put 307 on this variable and assign it to every person account, like that.
Because it's schedule triggered, isn't it? It's going to run as though it runs for one account at a time each time.
Yeah, it runs in the context of each one. So like when you have an object selected, it's going to run for an account in the context of a single account. So it'll run through the flow. So click on the get records though. Let's just make sure that you have it like with the filter that would. Yeah, that should work.
So then going back to your earlier question, Lizelle, what is the limits that it could bump into by saying, if this is going to run for every account, is it all one interview? And then are you going to bump into the like accounts times case queries? Are you going to hit that limit, or does every one resolve itself and restart your limit?
I don't know. I was hoping to ask that maybe that I should filter this out. So it is indeed, I don't hit limits because I'm thinking based on this, it's going to run through all my, through all our person accounts. And I don't know, as we grow, if there's a better way of doing this.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dale. Sorry. Go ahead.
I admittedly suck at multitasking, so this may have already been answered, but why is this a scheduled triggered flow versus when there's an actual new case created? Like,
just update that parent, right?
Yeah, update it transactionally. Why
You'd
are we
have
trying
to
to do this in a huge
you'd have to
batch?
you'd have to do created or changed.
Yeah.
Case that case is, moved to a different person.
Or deleted.
Or deleted.
Also deleted.
But how often, like, I guess, how many cases do you have versus how many person accounts do you have that when you think about the actual bulk throughout it, or the actual volume throughout a day or a week or whatever, that is that big of a deal? Like, what got us to this big batch where potentially your numbers wouldn't be changing day to day from day to day if it were working properly?
You would feel more comfortable if this had a filter on it saying only active cases or only cases created in the last week or something like that. So that it's not just, if you've got 1 million cases in your system, you're not reassigned or you're not counting every single one, even if it hasn't been touched in the last month.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, so maybe this will be better off, like someone mentioned, a record triggered flow or something where it adds. I honestly just copied something that I did before and I'm like, oh, it works. So I wanted to do the same
it'll work, but
that's a great idea. Like, I mean, if something works, use it, reuse it if you can, and then now you're at the tweak phase.
but I'm like, we are at thousands of case records at this point. So I'm afraid now that I got an error yesterday and I'm like, oh, afraid that, you know, it might happen again. So I'm like, oh, how do I tighten this up? I guess I would change this up and hopefully this will work and then I go from there.
I think don't oversimplify it, but so I like to say admins are architects waiting to happen. This is a great example of you're solving your problem, but you have to take that big step back and go, okay, I solved the problem for how long? What happens if there's 10 of these or 50 of these or 100 of these or 1,000 of these or 1,000,000 of these, and make sure you scale and answer that question because it'll work until it doesn't.
And
Right?
I want to
That's what
know,
Stu was saying.
I want to know, this feels like a roll up, whether you use Dolores or roll up helper or whatever. It feels like a roll up because if you want to do record triggered with flow, you need to have two because you need one for the delete case.
Yep.
And if you want to do it like this with a scheduled flow, you just have to make sure that your entry criteria are good. And I feel like either Dolores or roll up helper might be slightly more performant on the rerun this once a day kind of case.
You said roll up, was that?
Roll up helper or Dolores, which does roll ups across lookups. That's what the DLRS stands for. And in this case, you have a relationship between the case and the person. It's a lookup relationship. So you can't do a standard lookup roll-up summary. Sorry, you can't do a standard roll-up summary field, but you can do it across the lookup with roll-up helper or DLRS. And it's going to do the work for you of counting and dealing with deletions.
So can I ask just one other thing? And I really do need, I think we all need to jump because we're at top of the hour. Are you intending for this number to actually be a data point or could you do a report chart that if you're looking at the person account, you just
smart.
need to see a metric of how many cases in the last X number of days? Like, are you actually going to be reporting on all these person accounts and the number of cases in the last X number of days, like how you have it listed here? Or
yeah. So I'm going to be reporting on the fact that patient accounts with cases and then the order records. So
why could this also then not be a cross filter report of here's all my person accounts that have cases in the last whatever? Like if ultimately you're trying to report, start with reports and work your way backwards from there.
Oh, cross filtering on a report, that could work.
Yeah, and will it let you, like, if you can summarize the number of cases and apply a filter to those cases, it should then theoretically aggregate the number of cases to then show here's how many cases per person account met that criteria.
Okay, that's helpful. Oh, so I don't have to go through all of this. It's just a simple report.
Exactly.
Oh, I had no idea. Thank you. Okay, I will look into that.
Come back and show us what you do.
Yeah. Come back and show us in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you
All
so
right,
much,
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. And just hope everyone has a great 2023 and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Woohoo.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.